All right, so this is a reading of the Just War Principles, and this is coming from our textbook, page 145, which has a lot of great scripture from Buddhism, Hinduism, all the religions we're going to study, and some religions that we're not going to study. And just ask if you want to borrow a copy of this. All right, so first let's start with some context. The following passage is from the Discourse on the Realm of the Bodhisattva, and it contains a response by the ascetic Satyaka, who is later revealed to be Sakyamuni Buddha in disguise, to King Kanda Pradyota. The sage urges the king to attempt mediation and to make friendly overtures towards aggressive rivals, but in some cases this approach will not work and war is the only option. Satyaka informs the king that if he acts only in order to save his people from harm and has no thoughts of benefiting himself, and if he uses the minimum amount of force necessary to achieve his objections, he may avoid any negative karma, and if his intention is pure, he may even benefit from fighting. So some of you might be noticing some parallels between this and the Bhagavad Gita, where you have a very powerful being. The Sakyamuni Buddha is often believed to have powers, believed to be eternal, and he's in disguise giving instructions to a king about war. So you probably notice some parallels there. But you're going to see some similarities and some differences in what they're saying. And so here's the actual excerpt. Initially, skillful means should be employed by a ruler or minister using friendship to avoid war. If they can benefit their opponents and resolve a conflict, they should do so in order to avoid war. If they can frighten an enemy by forming an alliance with a large force, and if this can prevent war, then they should form an alliance in order to avoid war initially. If he cannot avoid war by friendship or benefiting enemies, or by frightening them, then a ruler should wage war, keeping 3 thoughts in mind. First, he must think of fully protecting his subjects. Second, he must think of conquering the enemy. Third, he must think of protecting all life. Keeping these 3 thoughts in mind, a ruler should arrange the 4 divisions of his army. In this way, in the midst of conflict, he should employ skillful means. In the final stage, he should set up the 4 divisions in groups that are inferior, mediocre, and best. The inferior fighters should be on the front line, and the mediocre fighters should be behind them. The cavalry should be placed between these 2. The ruler should be at the rear along with the best fighters. This formation will produce the best results and will bring success to the ruler. The brave and faint-hearted fighters can demonstrate their loyalty and use their skills to fight for the ruler and to overcome their fear. Thus they will not retreat. Thus a ruler employs skillful means during the final period. Thus a ruler who uses skillful means and prepares for battle will destroy the enemy army. But even though he wounds and kills, through these 3 thoughts the ruler will commit fewer atrocities and fewer negative acts, and he may not necessarily experience retribution for these actions. Why not? Because his intention is compassionate and free from greed, and he engages in these actions without producing karma. And so I'd like you to think about, how does this apply in Myanmar? And how does ideas of in-group and out-group, who belongs and who doesn't belong, who's part of your community and who's not considered part of your community, can serve as the cultural violence that then justifies pretty harsh atrocities that might not be agreed with in this, but you could also use this passage to justify those atrocities based on who you consider in the group and out of the group. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next class.